Intransitive and intransitive verbs. Try not to make this too hard because I'm not really going to be testing you on the details. I just basically want you to get the big picture. Let's see. Jane, would you please read out loud for us on the very beginning on page 37?
Okay. The transitive verb expresses an action that is directly exerted on a person or thing. The person or thing receiving the action is the direct object. For example, the dog catches the ball. She was sending a package.
Okay, now do y'all remember, was it with this class, or I think it was maybe my Greek class, that I said one way you can tell the difference between a transitive and an intransitive verb is if you replace the verb by the verb kick. If something gets kicked, then it's a transitive verb.
That's so awesome.
The dog kicks the ball. Okay, the ball got kicked. That's transitive. She was kicking a package. The package got kicked. That's transitive.
Oh.
So that's one way you can tell the difference between transitive and intransitive.
Well, so he kicks on the corner
That would not be transitive, right? Because he's just standing there kicking, but nothing's getting
what
kicked.
would he be doing if it?
He stands on the corner.
Or sells hot dogs.
Transitive is like making contact, and then intransitive is just doing something.
Yeah, pretty much. So Chip, would you continue reading for us?
Give me the first word.
The verbs.
Okay, the verbs in these sentences, catches and was sending, are transitive. Transeo, go across. The direct objects in these sentences, ball and package, would be expressed in Latin in the accusative case. Many transitive verbs...
Okay, let's pause there for a second. So in that example, we said we replaced the verb by kicks and something got kicked. Whatever got kicked is going to be in the accusative case because that's going to be the direct object. Okay, go ahead.
Many transitive verbs, such as catches and was sending, require direct objects to complete their meaning. Many transitive verbs, however, may be used absolutely. That is, they may occur without an expressed direct object. For example, to the question, "What are you doing?" the response, "I am writing," could be considered complete, although a direct object, book, some letters, is implied.
Okay, so that's the part that's a little tricky. So you can have a transitive verb that's used absolutely, meaning that there's not a direct object, but you can kind of understand that a direct object is implied. So for example, I am writing. Well, if you think about that sentence, you know that they're writing something. So you could say that that's transitive but used absolutely. So the direct object
would not work there?
Yeah, it doesn't really work that well.
I am writing a screenplay based on some obscure Latin story.
So then I am kicking a screenplay would work.
Well, actually, that could actually work because when you're thinking about something, you're kicking it around.
Well, that's true. That's true. So, I mean, think about whether or not it could have a direct object. And if it could have a direct object, then you could say, well, it's transitive used absolutely. But like I said before, don't stress yourself out too much about this because it's not really going to be that significant in what we do. Kristen, would you continue reading for us?
Many transitive verbs, such as catches and was sending, require direct objects to complete their meaning.
I think we did that one.
Are we at an intransitive?
We are.
An intransitive verb expresses an action that is not directly exerted on a person or thing. It cannot take a direct object. For example, he stands on the corner. I shall go home.
Okay, so both of those, there is no direct object. He stands on the corner or I shall go home. There's no direct object. Can you keep reading?
I have a question.
Yeah.
When will this video be on the internet?
Probably tomorrow.
Okay, I was going to say, I'm exhausted over the time.
Okay.
Yeah, just checking.
Okay.
Two important types of intransitive verbs are copulative verbs and verbs that express motion.
Okay. Your book uses copulative verbs, and you'll see that in your workbook as well.
I think that works.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. But I typically tend to use linking verb because...
That's a whole lot less innuendo-y.
Yes, but it's the same basic idea, so same thing. So the verbs that you think of as linking verbs are the same as what your book and your workbook are going to call copulative verbs. Let's think of some examples of linking verbs and why they are linking verbs. Can someone at this table give me an example of a linking verb?
Is.
Is, that's the ultimate linking verb. How about over here? Seems. That's one of those tricky linking verbs.
Are.
Are. How about this table?
It's kind of.
Oh, I can. Wait.
Just
B.
Be.
I'll just put it.
Become?
Become. Those are all linking verbs. Now, why are those linking verbs?
Because they have to have another verb to make sense.
No, they don't have to have another verb to make sense.
They often come with another verb.
No,
It links
no,
the
no,
subject.
They're not an action, but they put the rest
What they're
of the verb.
doing is they're kind of stating that the two sides of the sentence are the same in some ways. So he is a farmer. Farmer and he, they're the same thing. It's
So-
linking them together. Or it can be used to describe something. He seems very friendly. So the seems there is a linking verb, and it's being used to describe the
So
subject.
that all a linking verb is really doing is just connecting two parts of the sentence and saying they are associated with each other in some way.
Right, and there's no direct object. And that's the main thing, no direct object. Okay, so our other type of linking verb is for a verb that expresses emotion. Now, I think you were reading, Kristen?
The actions of the verbs in these sentences are not exerted on direct objects. In the second sentence, the adverb home is not a direct object since the action of shall go is not exerted upon home. For the most part, verbs that are transitive in English are transitive in Latin. However, there are several important exceptions. These are indicated in the vocabulary lists and notes.
Okay, now I'd like you to get out your workbook, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at a few examples from Drill 11. The rest of Drill 11 is going to be for homework, and then we're going to go over Drill 10 Part C. Yes? Because you're not, think of go as an action verb. Home would have to be something that got goed. And that's not really what's happening. If you're going to say, I paint my home, then home is the direct object. Or I love my home, it's a direct object. But going home, that's not a direct object, it's just kind of showing motion. So a lot of times when it shows motion, it's not going to be a transitive verb. Yes?
What are some of the exceptions that are transitive, but not in English? Now flip back to the make sentences.
Wait, what were we supposed to do for homework on drill 10?
You're supposed to finish it, Part C. Seth, I'm going to have to think about that and get back to you because off the top of my head I don't know of any, but I'm sure there are some. Okay, so let's look at Drill 11, and we're going to just look at it. Oh, that's right. Okay, we'll make copies for those of you who don't have it in just a minute. If you don't have it, just look on with someone at your table who has a workbook, and then we'll send someone copies in a second. Okay, so let's take a look at Drill 11, and we're just going to do a few examples, and you'll finish it for homework. 1 and 2 and 3 are things that have just come from the reading that we just discussed. So let's take a look at our sentences here. If you find an intransitive verb, you're supposed to say whether it is copulative, a verb expressing motion, or neither. If it's a transitive verb, you can say whether it's transitive or transitive used absolutely. So let's take a look at number 1. The soldiers were walking on the beach. The soldiers were walking on the beach. Intransitive. And does it fit into one of our categories of intransitive verbs that we talked about? We talked about copulative or linking verbs, and we talked about verbs showing motion.
It was time motion.
Yeah, it's showing motion. The main thing is that there's no direct object there. Okay, let's take a look at, take a look at number 6. Number 6, Dylan. Would you read that one out loud? Well, I'll tell you what it says. It says, will she become president?
Intransitive?
It's intransitive. And does it fit into one of our categories? It's a linking verb, right. It's a linking verb.
We're going over the homework?
No, I'm doing a few examples from tonight's homework. Okay, let's turn the page.
Wait, so when you say,
Yeah, I'm just picking some examples out.
Ms.
Yeah,
Morrison, when you say that it's like a linking verb that automatically goes along with copulative.
that's right.
Okay.
Okay, number 10. Number 10, we work too much. We work too much. Chip, what do you think about that one?
It's transitive. Is it transitive? Well, no, because it doesn't have a direct object, but, so it's intransitive?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's intransitive. And I'm going to say it doesn't really fall into any of our categories.
Okay.
Okay.
That's cool.
Okay? Now, how about 13? Last night they were drinking. I'm sure it was milk or water or juice.
So like, what's the actual word or wine?
They were drinking.
It could have been they.
But notice how I immediately, what I immediately said with that one, and that'll give you a clue on this one.
Oh, it's transitive, even though there's no direct object
Yeah.
stated in it.
Yeah.
That's right. It's transitive, but used absolutely, because I could immediately say last night they were drinking juice. You know, I could throw that in there.
Or
So-
that.
Well,
probably not.
It's just not a complete
Well,
there was that one guy who got the Darwin Award for drinking gasoline and throwing up in a fireplace. That was lit.
That's real gross.
You can stop.
Stupid.
Okay, that's the end of what I'm going to tell y'all